Rick and Morty has a problem that I think finally needs addressing. At one point in recent time, Rick and Morty was considered to be the most popular adult cartoon since the likes of Family Guy or South Park, with it becoming this massive cultural phenomenon of folks from all over the world falling in love with the series. Or at the very least, its iconography, you know, Rick himself, or the portal effect, or even, unfortunately, Pickle Rick.
Pickle Rick!
I mean, they got speaking roles in Space Jam too, they don't just hand that out to anybody. Despite all this, I think it's safe to say that ever since the release of its third season, not only not meeting fan expectations as it's arguably of a much lower quality than the second, but also the year and a half between season 2 and 3, which made it lose consciousness in the public eye for a bit. The show's popularity has since begun to wane, with the most recent 6th season getting the lowest ratings of any so far. Of course, an aspect of that has to do with interest in TV itself going under, but it's hard to deny that people don't seem to care about the show as much as they did back in its prime. That's not to say I think Adult Swim is gonna let the series die anytime soon. Not only do we have like 100 more episodes to go through, which they've already been picked up for, but I could easily see it going on forever, much like The Simpsons, where it continues despite its head being long ago. Doesn't mean it has to be bad. South Park kept up a very high level of quality for decades after the show lost its relevance. If anything, it can allow the writers to be at ease, and be willing to take more risks knowing there's less eyes on them. You know, be more experimental, see what works and what doesn't.
It's coming right at you! Dear God, no. You can't be real.
I wish incest porn had a more mainstream appeal for a friend of mine.
This doesn't. The only time I ever see anybody talking about Rick and Morty now is when they've done something controversial in their recent episodes. Everybody rushes to Twitter to let it be known that the show is going in some really fucked up direction, and then everybody forgets about it until next week when they do the same thing again, lather, rinse, repeat. Even if I haven't truly enjoyed the show since the premiere of season 3, I want to say, I've still been watching it every time a new episode comes out. And it's strange because every once in a while they manage to release a genuinely good one here and there, like the season 5 episode where Morty falls in love with the Captain Planet knockoff, or the Vat of Acid episode, which is probably my favorite out of any since season 2. And coincidentally, what I like about both of these is how they managed to evoke real emotion out of Morty through a fucked up sci-fi concept. That's what I feel worked best about the series in its greatest moments. Season 6 seemed promising too. Nothing groundbreaking, but I enjoyed the first few episodes well enough. Although, I'm sad to see that much like season 5, the obnoxious meta humor hasn't stopped. I don't care if you're meta, just don't present an idea, call it dumb and stupid, then proceed to do said idea.
Dramatic voiceover while stranded in space? I guess when you're dying, the first thing to go is your creativity.
Sorry for the sitcom fight.
See, they can get away with being uncreative because they're aware of it. Saying all that, I would take that shit any day out of the week compared to what's going on the opposite side of the spectrum. Because somebody, and I'm not naming names, Dan, has some sort of fucked up fetish that they like to keep inserting into the show over and over again, and it's gotten to a point where there's no way they don't realize that people are aware of this. I'm of course talking about incest. I don't know if YouTube is gonna be pissed at me saying that. It's really bizarre. Every time you think they're going back to their roots, BAM! Incest. Now, strangely enough, this weird fetish shit is nothing new for Rick and Morty. In the first couple seasons, there was a suspicious amount of times where Summer would pee her pants or talk about peeing her pants, or recount a time where she did pee her pants. Enough for me to raise an eyebrow when I first watched the show back in 2015. And I wasn't the only one to pick up on this. I would not be shocked at all if some random writer were inserting this stuff in as some sort of creepy outlet for their fetish. And what's even sadder is that this isn't even a Rick and Morty issue, this is a meme for a reason. How about all the times Family Guy has made weird jokes about Meg and Chris kissing or taking baths together? The line between what's considered a joke becomes so skewed that you can't tell what the purpose of them even is. At the very least though, with the Summer shit, it's one-off lines here and there. They don't have Summer pees her pants, the episode. Not to mention the show itself was consistently good around this time, so we were able to somewhat look past it, I guess. But now we not only have the show being of a much worse quality, but they've begun taking up entire storylines with this shit.
What's your stupid 21st century watered down fortune cookie say, Dad?
You will have sex with your mother.
People started to notice this back in the 4th episode of season 5, which features Morty's sperm becoming these walking, talking, sentient creatures. And so to lure them to a location where they can all be taken care of, they entice them through enlarging Summer's egg. Morty's sister, by the way. Their plan eventually winds up working, but as a result of this, a giant baby is created that is now forever roaming space. On its own, this was a pretty uncomfortable conclusion. After season 3, you can really feel the Smiths feeling like less and less of a family in the way they all interact with each other. And Summer and Morty technically having a baby together was not helping this. And this could have easily remained as nothing more than an odd bump in the road for the series, if it weren't for the fact that they brought it back 3 episodes later. Yep, out of all the continuity people were clamoring for with this show, Baby was sure at the top of the list. We learned that Summer's whole weird attachment for the family working together in that episode is a direct result of her, again, Baby, being taken by the government, with her eventually growing a bond with the thing. And then it becomes crucial to the conclusion of that episode. Yeah, a real heartfelt story there. They seem to calm down with this shit until bringing it back in full swing for the following season, which is currently 5 episodes into its run, 2 of which have their entire stories revolve around Perfect. The first is episode 3, Bethic Twinstinct, where a normal Thanksgiving between the Smith family and Space Beth, who is actually the real Beth after asking Rick to make a clone for her to live a mundane family life while she gets up to wacky space hijinks, don't ask, gets interrupted when Space Beth and Clone Beth begin to have feelings for one another, which the entire family starts to catch on to, except for their husband Jerry. Already, this has a lot of fans scratching their heads. Was this really necessary? But it's somewhat balanced out with the overall theme of Beth taking back control of her life. Of course, this probably could have been done in a better way, but you can at least give them the excuse of symbolism here. Jerry fucking his mum? I don't know how that idea was approved and ran with. The 5th episode of season 6 is so strange because, somehow, I actually don't hate it. Yeah, the Jerry fucking his mum episode. This is mostly because once the plot actually kicks off, it turns into this really fun and creative Rick and Jerry adventure, where they try to obtain the power behind fortune cookies. With a lot of incredibly good action scenes where Rick and the enemies are both using their fortunes to help in combat, like video game power-ups. It's just that it's so hard not to look past the crux of all this, where the characters keep talking about Jerry's fortune. It reminded me a lot of the Gumball episode The Oracle, where the entire thing is one big build-up to Gumball's destiny of being naked in public. That show in general was just obsessed with Gumball being naked. That's a whole other kind of worms I'm opening. Point to all this being, there's a really fun Rick and Jerry story here. It just so happens that the start and end of it is very disturbing, and people probably wouldn't have given it too much attention if this weren't becoming such a pattern for the show. Again, were they not all sitting in the writer's room like, okay, maybe we should just calm down on the folks are gonna get the wrong idea. Nonsense, the more the better. My friend Sunny TM is gonna put up a video soon going over how much of a creepy weirdo Dan Harmon is. I'll link it here when it's out. I'm not touching that shit. The argument I usually see when I talk badly about one of these adult comedies is that I'm some kind of snowflake who can't handle a bit of edginess, when that's not what it's about at all. I don't think most people criticizing the show for this are offended by this stuff. More that they're, again, noticing a pattern and wondering if it's intentional or not. I mean, isn't the whole point of doing edgy, shocking humor that it's doing something the audience wouldn't expect? But it's not unexpected anymore. If anything, it's very, very expected. Also, I'd like to point out the glaring falsehood in that argument where shocking does not equal funny. That seems to be the idea a lot of these adult animated cartoons have now, but it couldn't be any farther from the truth. Something shocking can be funny, and something can be funny because it's so shocking, but they're not synonymous. Something can shock you and just leave you like, well, okay then. And that seems to be the way most people are reacting to these newer episodes. But then I have to wonder if the writers get some sort of affirmation after seeing their reactions to all this stuff. Like, at some point, does it turn around and become ironic for them? Like, you know, we should do another episode. Well, don't you think that might give folks the wrong idea and make them think one of us has a fetish for that shit? Yeah? What's the fucking point in that?
Funny.
Like, has the show gone on for so long and the writers are so aware that it's far away from its prime that they're just doing whatever they can in the hopes that it picks up traction? It goes back to what I said earlier. I only ever hear of Rick and Morty now when it's done something controversial. Is that the point? Are they doing this stuff in the hopes that people talk about them more? And therefore tune in to see if they can notice the weird fetish shit in future episodes too. But if that's even the case, who is any of this for? When does the joke stop? The only people who can laugh at the fact that the viewers think they have an fetish are the Rick and Morty writers. And at that point, what are they getting out of it? Attention? I guess at the end of the day, we'll never know. I'm willing to give the series the benefit of the doubt, but with how much of a trend this seems to be in animation, like that one baby Total Drama Island spin-off show and the creepy fairy thing, or the Powerpuff Girls reboot supposedly having that one self-insert from the writer who would not only write a character into the show which not only looks scarily like him, not only is voiced by him, but Blossom is also in love with him and they animate multiple scenes of them being together. Okay, yeah, that's a little worse. Point being though, it's not out of the ordinary for something like this to be the case. At the end of the day though, hopefully whoever's responsible for this on the writers team is able to keep it in their pants for the rest of the season. Because like I said, the show has managed to pick up again. It's nowhere near as great as it once was, but for what it is, I've been enjoying the newer stuff well enough. Again though, just cut it out with all the meta shit. But come on, writers, just calm it down on all the stuff. I think you've met your quota for the season. Okay. Bye.